Welcome to Behind the Camera Podcast, a podcast for teens. I'm Annie, your host, a former LPC turned sports and senior photographer in the RGV.
I'm your co-host, Anissa.
And today we have Senior Rep Year 4, Jenai Martinez in the studio with us. She's our guest. Thanks, Jenai, for being here today.
Thank you.
I know it was short notice, but
okay.
You're a trooper. You're like, I'll be there. So today's topic, I chose you especially for this one because today's topic is God in high school. So I know when you had first applied for the senior rep program, something you wrote on your application, I don't know if you wrote something about like the church you go to, or you wrote a little bit about your faith. Like, I don't know what it was, but then I started like looking at your profile and it was very like God-centered, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that caught my attention because I know high school's rough. And I feel like high school's even more rough for like Christians or like people of faith because of the pressures and all that stuff. So I was like, Jenai would be perfect because I mean, it seems from the outside like you held it pretty well together. So we just wanted to talk to you and for you to share your experience with us about how that was. But first of all, I want to know how you've been. So Jenai was our year 4 rep. So she just graduated last year, but she was in our rep program and we really miss her. So you want to tell us what you've been up to?
Yeah, basically I've been working and trying to get into school for scenography, just trying to get everything ready and just trying to figure out like kind of the path of life right now.
Has it been different?
It has. Like, I literally feel like I'm still in high school, but like I'm like, oh my gosh, like my attendance. But I'm like, hello, like I'm not in school. So it's hard.
You're like, I haven't been to school in a whole week.
Yeah.
Like.
So yeah, it was definitely like, it's still kind of hard to get like trying to still maneuver like life without school. But I miss it.
Because you have to like fill it in. You have to fill in your life now.
It's a very long
like,
summer. It is.
Yeah. So have you found it like to be challenging? Like, is it like a good thing or a bad thing?
It has its pros and cons. Like, this pros is like I'm waking up like super late. Like, hello, like that's the best. And then like the cons is having to like, now I have to work. I have to figure out how to make money now. Like, I have to figure out my life. Like, I'm like, wait, hold on. Like, I'm not just a kid anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in the big world now.
Yeah, you have to like
what?
self-regulate.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know that is the hard part.
Yeah.
And I think like, especially because you didn't jump into college right away, like you have that like downtime.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm pretty sure your parents are like, you need to like do something productive.
Yeah, my parents were like, please leave. Like, get out of the house. Go.
They're like, are you sure you don't want to go away to college?
Yeah.
And I know.
Was it their idea for you to work, or you were like, I'm gonna work?
I'm gonna work. It was my idea.
So you wanted to take a little bit of like a break between.
Yeah, because like high school was terrible. Like, it was fun, but it was terrible. And like, I don't know, I just had to take like the mental break of like just me, myself, regain myself, like, you know?
Yeah, like recenter.
Yeah. And so when I started working again, like, I feel like it helped me in a way. But yeah.
It's something different.
It is.
Why was high school horrible though?
I know, I was gonna ask the same thing.
Was it like academics or people?
It was people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like
Both of us.
Sorry.
oh,
Sorry.
we know exactly.
This is awkward. Sorry.
No worries.
No, but thanks for telling us because
Yeah.
it's something that happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, it's okay to just say, you know, that it was people.
Yeah. It was just like people, like the scheduling, and it's just like the mindset of a high schooler. It's, you know?
Once you're like, you see
It's like a different world, like high school, especially now. Like we were talking about just like how high school used to be versus how high school is now, and it's just like super different.
Yeah. Like,
So-
even like with middle school, like it's completely different than when I was in middle school.
Oh yeah.
Like, I was like, dang.
They're all grown up now.
Yeah.
It's weird.
They are grown up, and I think like the pressures are even more now. Like not that you have to keep up, but like the pressure to want to keep up with what everybody's doing.
Yeah,
you know
for
what I mean? Like, I don't know that I would survive high school if I did it now because it's like so much pressure. Like, just even going to like the football games and seeing like the level of like the mums, like what? Like,
Okay, I had a pretty big mom too, though.
I know, but
mine was pre-COVID though, and mine was still.
Yours was, yeah, but like, I don't know. I'm
like,
just saying.
You have to meet like a certain like regulation. Is that the right word?
I don't know. Standard.
Standard.
Yeah. Like a certain standard of like how big your mum needs to be accepted.
To be cool.
To be cool, for it to be nice.
Yeah.
So when I see people with like a normal mom, I'm like, oh my God, I have so much respect for you because I know you stand firm in your beliefs. No, but for real, like it's crazy how it's just, you know, the standard of high school now.
For sure.
And even just like in everything else too. Like, I don't know. It's tough to be a high schooler, I think, right now.
Oh yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that you said that it was terrible for you.
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, like I would have never guessed that it was terrible for you.
Yeah.
Like really, I would have never guessed because you hold it well, like you hold it together well.
Yeah.
You know.
I would have been crying.
Yeah, Anissa would have been having a total mental breakdown.
On today's podcast.
So is there anything you miss about high school at all?
Definitely the friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. The friends and sports. And a few teachers.
Yeah. I know. So you did the whole pole vaulting thing. Mm-hmm. I know. You're my famous subject because everybody sees your pole vaulting and they're like, oh my God, your pole vaulting picture. And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, I know, that was a cool one.
Yeah.
I'm like, we literally stayed out till like 10 o'clock at night.
She literally almost died that night.
Yeah, she almost died.
You're crazy.
Yeah, she's a trooper. She almost died for Pixel Annie, so she's a real one.
With her IT band.
Yeah, so... Okay, so back to our topic. Were you in... Okay, so first of all, can you tell us a little bit about, like, your history with, like, church or your faith? Like, tell us, like, how that kind of all came about.
So, I grew up in church. Mm-hmm. In middle school, kind of like... Yeah, starting in middle school, in 6th grade, my brother had a massive stroke. And I was... like, okay, God, like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And then a few months later, my grandpa passed away. So I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And so then a few months after that, my uncle passed away.
Oh my goodness.
And then a few months after that, my great grandma passed away. And so it was just like one after the other, all in 1 year. Mm-hmm. And I was like, God, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. Like, I'm mad at you.
Like, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I stopped going to church. And I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, you took everything away from me. Mm-hmm. And I'm, like, you know.
Yeah.
And so that happened. And then towards the end of the year, towards, like, the end of middle school, that's when COVID happened. And I was like, you know what? Like, I was going through depression. Like, it was bad. Like, I had suicidal thoughts. Mm-hmm. Like, life was just at the end for me. Mm-hmm. And, like, I wanted nothing to do with God. Mm-hmm. Like, if you could ask people from my church, they'd be like, oh yeah, like, I was nowhere to be found in middle school. Mm-hmm. And, like, I feel like that break was so hard for me. Like, I felt so alone, like, nothing, like, could happen. Like, nothing could happen, but, like, my mindset was just, like, I'm done. Mm-hmm. Like, my life is over, like, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I had the mindset that God no longer wanted me, and like I was just like too far gone. Mm-hmm. And in freshman year, that's when I finally reached out for help, and I was like, I'm going through this XYZ, and I don't know what to do anymore. Mm-hmm. I had already written notes. I had a plan. I had everything planned for some things to go down. Mm-hmm. And that's when I reached out, and they're like, you need to come back. And I had people praying over me. I ended up going to a church camp, and I told my student pastor that what was going on, and he was like, just letting you know, we do have to call the cops, and we have to call your parents.
Oh my goodness.
And I hadn't told my parents yet.
So okay, so when you reached out, it was to like friends, or who did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I reached out to a friend, and yeah, that's when that happened, and I was like, no, like I'm no longer like in that situation anymore. Like I promise,
Yeah.
because I was so scared.
You're like, don't put me away.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to insane asylum. Like I'm out of here.
Yeah, like just to kind of like interrupt your story. That has to change. Like I feel like there has to be some sort of reform, because the reason we put people away is for their own safety, right, or the safety of others. But I feel like that also deters them from like being honest about like what they're going through.
Yeah. So like when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not gonna tell anyone what I'm going through anymore. Like you know, and like nothing bad on him at all. But like he was literally just watching out for me, like, and he wanted to make sure that I was safe because he knew what my plans were. And so I was like, no, like I'm not in that situation anymore. And like at that time, I wasn't really in that situation anymore. It was just like let me tell you what was happening.
Yeah.
And
like
so,
how bad it got.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not in that situation anymore. Like, everything's okay. He's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. He's like, but I still need to reach out to your parents. I was like, okay, like, that's fine. Just don't call the cops. I promise I've done nothing wrong.
Yeah. Because then once the cops are involved, the cops are like, we have to take you. Like, this is our, like, legally we have to, like, at least take you to.
And everything else after that, they're going to be not watching you, but watching
But, like,
you.
watching, And so I was like, oh, no thanks. Like, I'm good. And then, let's see, what after that?
So then your parents found out.
Yeah. And
how did they react to everything?
They just asked why. They asked why, and why they thought this whole time I was happy. And I was like, I'm not, and I haven't been.
So you're like a good pretender.
Yeah.
That's what we're learning about Jenai.
Sorry, y'all.
She's really good at pretending.
Well,
I can't do that. Like,
in front of certain people, I could fake it.
Yeah.
But like my close friends will know, like,
when
dude,
she
wrong. Was like,
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us, because I would never know that.
I would never guess that.
And I think that a lot of people can relate, like, especially your age. A lot of people can relate to, this is how I feel, this is how I really feel, but this is what everybody else sees.
Yeah.
You know?
And then what else? And then after that, I started high school, and then that's when everything like kind of calmed down. And then again, I went through all of that all over again in high school. And so like just the people in high school, like it was harder in high school actually. Like I thought middle school was hard, but then high school I was like, dang.
Oh, high school's rough.
What was the difference between middle school and high school in that sense of it being harder?
In middle school, I had actual friends that were gonna stand by me. And in high school, I had friends, but that ended up backstabbing me. And friends saying they were my friends and going off and talking about me and just telling people everything about me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
hard.
rough.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
So then in junior high, you went through this and then it got better.
Yeah, and then it got better again, and then it got worse. And then senior year is when I was like highest of highs. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I'm so happy right now. But that's also when I met my boyfriend. And so that's when everything like, okay, like I'm good.
So when you transitioned into high school, like, so let's go back to like church camp and all that. Did you start going back to church at that point?
Yeah, I started going back, and I believe it was junior year. Yeah, because I didn't have a freshman year because of COVID. So I think it was junior year. No, sophomore or junior year. One of those years. I started to get a lot, like, super involved into church, and that's when I joined the church officially. And I could say like a class to get into the church to be a member. And I started singing for church, and then I started just getting super involved. And then that's when like I was going through a bunch of stuff, and so I took a break from church for a few months, and then I went back. And then but I went to church camp like every year. And then what else? I
have a question. So you're saying you had that moment where you, quote unquote, broke up with Jesus whenever a lot of stuff was going on in middle school, and you went to church, you became a part of the church. I know you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. Was there a moment where you kind of reconnected with God? It might be a little too personal. For some people, it is personal and they want to keep it to themselves.
There was one song, I don't, it's terrible that I don't remember the song, but there was one song, I don't even remember, but it was during worship, because my form of worship, like, being, like, super, super connected with God is singing.
Yeah.
I'm super passionate about singing, and for me, like, I'm gonna be real honest and super transparent, like, reading the Bible is hard for me. Because I'm like, I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
And like, for me, songs,
the Bible's hard to read.
It
I mean, Bible study, like little Bible studies help, and devotionals to kind of understand it. But yeah, it's the same for me. And my attention span is like of a peanut.
Yeah.
So like, it's hard.
I'm like, wait, what did you say? Like,
Yeah.
So
singing is like your connection.
Yeah. And so like the singing, like when like I hear the words, I'm like, okay, like now I know, you know? And so there was one day where I was at church and I literally broke down. Like, I was sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And even like at church camps, like you feel like you're connected at here, but like at church camp, it's like a whole different thing. Like you hit it even more.
Yeah.
So it's just like the worship helps. And like what made me like have that switch mindset was that like, okay, like God actually wants me, and like God actually like isn't too far, like he's literally right there with open arms waiting for you. So it was just like
no, and that's how it is. And I think, you know, the enemy, aka Satan, like I think he's the one that's constantly in our ear, like telling us like, you're not good enough, God doesn't want you. Because I recently went through something like that where I was like, oh my God, not even God wants me. Like I just, you feel rejected, but it's not from God. Like it's, the rejection is coming from somewhere else. But there's I think it's reckless love. It says, when I was your foe, still your love fought for me. That hits me so hard every single time. I'm like, oh my God, when I went through my I hate God and I hate you and like why, and like I was being a bad child, a bad child of God, like God's still there, you know what I mean? And so I think through just, you know, our life, even if we don't run back to God voluntarily, I think that things happen that make us realize that he's been there the whole time and like really close to us when we thought he wasn't, you know? And so that's such a good story. Thanks for telling us. Okay. I know. No, but I can relate to that, you know, because I've gone through those phases, and I think that we compare our relationship to God with our relationships here on earth with with humans and people, you know, and so we kind of have that, like, I don't want to say that standard, but we compare our relationship with God with our relationship with humans, and it's totally different. Because humans are gonna be unforgiving, and we're gonna, you know, and God's not like that. God has, like, you know, infinite, you know, grace and compassion and love for us and mercy, which we don't deserve at all.
For sure.
But, you know, he's there. And so, we do go through seasons where we just feel alone sometimes. But when we come back and we realize that God's been there the whole time, I feel like it just strengthens your relationship and your faith. Because you're like, wow, you know, I don't even deserve this right now.
But I also think, like, it's hard in high school because, like, we fail so many times and we sin so much. And, like, I think that was my mindset as well, though. Like, okay, like, I did this. Okay, like, God doesn't want me no more.
That's it.
I did this. Oh, God doesn't want me. And I feel like that's not only, like, my mindset. I feel like we have, like, other high schoolers have done it, too. Like,
because I think we feel like how we would feel if someone did that to us so many times. We'd be like, well, I wouldn't forgive you anymore after, like, the 17th time.
Like, 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. Like, we kind of see it like that. Like, okay, God's going to be really mad at me now. Like, he's not going to forgive me this time.
Exactly.
Prayer time's going to be awkward.
I know. No. Oh, my God. So, like, a few weeks ago, I was going through something super hard. And, like, when I prayed, I was like, God, I'm sorry. I'm so needy. Like, I'm sorry that I'm too much. I'm too much for you. But I'm not too much. You know, no one is too much. But I just feel like, man, like, you have to deal with me. Like, I'm sorry.
Isn't it so crazy how he already knows what's going to happen to you? So it's like,
or
you're so stressed out, like, during high school or college, or, you know, even in your adult life, not knowing that, like, God already...
God's like, knows, girl, like, I got you. Like, this is nothing.
You're like, wait 3 more minutes, you're going to be fine.
No, really. We're just, like, so dramatic. It's because I think a lot of it comes from wanting to be in control. Like, we just want to be in control. We want to know what's going to happen. We want to plan A, B, and C. And, like, I think that just comes for our, like, we just want to be secure in our future.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, like I have to have some sort of, which we still have to be responsible on some level for our life. Like we can't just live recklessly, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's some things that we just don't have control over, and we just have to chill and like let God be God. Like
it's so hard for me because I'm the only girl in my family, youngest, and literally everything goes my way. Like I don't want to sound spoiled. That probably sounded spoiled, right?
I get whatever I want.
Yeah, but it's just like no, like it's my way. Like even like with like some of like my brother's girlfriends, I'm like, whoa, calm down, y'all.
yeah,
I'm the girl of the house. Like it's what I want, and it's how I like want it to go. So it's hard. Like I just want to like be like, no, God, actually, hold on. Let me do it myself.
No,
I'm like, no, I can't do that.
No. God's like, okay, Jenai, do it. See what happens. Yeah, please.
I'm like, yeah.
I know. I think there's been times like that where it's like, I'm just going to do it my way. And it ends up like blowing up in my face. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let's try this again.
Okay, fine. We'll do it your way. Oh my God. No, yeah. But so what do you think in high school? What was the biggest challenge for you in high school, like as a Christian?
Boys. Boys and friends.
Yeah. Like in regards to how you got along with them, or in regards to how to respond to situations? Like
Okay, wait, ask me the question one more time.
Okay, what was the biggest challenge for you in high school as a Christian?
Yeah, I guess it was like, boys and friends. Because I would always put them first. I didn't care what it would do to me. Like, boys and friends, or just people in general, always were put before me.
Yeah.
I was a doormat. I let people walk all over me. And it was hard, like, just putting yourself down. And there was times where I finally stood up for myself and people didn't like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they would be like, no, why are you being like that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa.
Because
like,
when that happens, they're like, well, wait a minute. Why are you being so like mean or whatever?
Yeah. And so it was like, no, like I'm standing up for myself. And then they'd be like, no, like don't do that. And I'm like, okay, like I'm sorry. And then boom, they'd walk all over me again. And I had one friend be like, you can't, like you cannot let them.
Yeah.
And I was like, but if I don't, like,
I'm not gonna
have, like I'm not gonna have anyone anymore. I basically was a doormat for everyone, and it was hard trying to like stand up for myself, but then not standing up for myself, and then being a doormat. It was just a lot.
So like, you intentionally, like, you knew you were being a doormat.
Yeah.
So like, you chose to be a doormat in a sense by not standing up for yourself. What were you trying to gain from that?
Just friendships, honestly. Because that's like, I felt alone in that time. And so I just wanted friends, and I didn't want to push anyone away. And I thought standing up for myself was just going to push everyone away. Because people were not going to like that.
So like, you were looking more at like quantity of friends over quality of friends.
Because I honestly hadn't had a genuine friend that was going to like stick by my side the whole time. And like, I had one friend, and then I didn't have that friend. It was just on and off. So it was just hard.
So your friends that you were really good friends with in like middle school, what happened to them? Did it just kind of drift apart?
Because COVID happened.
Oh.
Yeah.
I forgot about COVID.
So it was like 2 years.
Darn COVID.
For real.
Destroyed everything.
For real.
Yeah. So it was about 2 years.
And I didn't have social media in middle school.
Yeah.
So, like, I had nobody.
Yeah, it was hard to connect with people.
And, like, when we got back to school, it was just, like, everyone had their own groups already.
Yeah.
That connected through COVID. And so I was just like, dang.
That were probably on social media, like, connecting the whole time.
Yeah. So I was like, well, no friends for me.
So then when you got to high school, you got there, I don't want to say alone, but you didn't have a solid group of friends.
I had one friend.
Okay.
We did everything together. We, like, I would change my schedules. Like, it was just trying to, like stay together. That way I didn't get lost. That way, like, because I had, like, super bad anxiety. And so that friend was always taking care of me. And so, like, it was just, like, I couldn't. And so, it was just hard. Yeah.
Was this friend are they still, like, close to you?
No.
So whenever you didn't have them to take care of you and kind of calm your anxiety down, did you learn to deal with it on your own? Is that where you connected with God more?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I didn't have that friend anymore senior year. But we had already had, like, difficulty junior year. And it was just, like, I had to, like, it was basically fend for yourself at that time. Because I didn't want to tell anyone else that, like, I was going through anxiety. Because it was bad. Like, there was times where I would literally be on the hallway floor. And, like, people were having to, like, come pick me up. Because it was bad. And so, at that time, I was just like, God, why?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, why right now? And I just was like, I would just pray through the whole thing. And then at the end, I'm like, okay, like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like, thank you, God.
Did you ever have friends, like, walk away from you because you were, like, involved in church and stuff, or them not want to be your friends because of your relationship with God?
Yeah. Some people were very edgy with me just because they're like, oh, you're a church girl. And at the time, I was like, whoa. Like, I'm a church girl, but I'm also, like, an everyone's girl.
Yeah.
And so it was just hard, like
people, I think that people sometimes mistake, like, religion and, like, they're turned off by religion.
Yeah.
You know, thinking it's just, like, a set of, like, rules.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a lot different than that most of the time.
Yeah.
And I wish that people would understand that most Christians are really broken people.
Yeah.
Like, really imperfect, really broken, really, like, I need you, God, every second of the day. Like, that's how I've been feeling lately. I just feel like I need to be hanging on to you, like, every second of every day, because it's just been hard. You know, I don't know what it is in the atmosphere, but I've been feeling like that. Like, you know, and so I wish that mind frame would change about, because they think, like, Christian, like, oh, you think you're too good, or like, oh, you're, like, judging everybody. Yeah. And it's like, no.
You're like, they're like, oh, like, you're Christian, but you're over here.
Yeah.
And she's like, y'all, like, we sin too.
Yeah.
Like, we're not supposed to.
Like, we're
do.
all sinners. Yeah. Well, I mean, no matter how perfect we try to be, like, we're never, I know, like, I was listening to, I don't even know what I was listening to. It was like it wasn't a podcast. It was a sermon or something. And it was like, there's no such thing as a good person. Like, when it comes to comparison to, like, Christ and, like, God, like, no one's ever going to be a good person. You know, so I hate when people are like, oh, I'm a good person. Because it's like, that's just your ego talking. Like, that's an ego thing. Like, you cannot be a follower of Christ and have an ego and say, like, oh, I'm this or I'm that, or, like, I'm judging people. Like, I think that's a big misconception. So do you think that was hard for you? Like, did you, like, not get invited places because, like, you're a church girl, or, like, anything like that?
Well, like, let's say, like, if there was parties at school, like, after parties or any of that, people would be like, oh, like, no, like, she doesn't go. Like, I mean, I still didn't go because I didn't want to go. Actually, I did want to go, but I was like, no, like, that's not smart. Like, let's be honest, that's not smart.
There's a lot of temptation at parties.
Yeah. And so, like, I wouldn't get invited to certain things, and it was just like, that sucks. But then at the same time, I'm like, no, like, there's no reason.
It was also good for you to not get invited.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I'm pretty sure you felt a little bit of, like
what?
Like, feeling left out.
Yeah. Like, I was gonna go to the prom after party, and I was like, like, that's not for me. Like, that's not it.
That's not who you are. Yeah.
I didn't even go to my senior year prom after party.
And I wanted to go to the senior Yale thing. And I was like, that's like the worst regret.
That's like the worst one.
You wanted to go?
Yeah.
And you didn't go?
No.
And you regret it?
No, I don't regret it.
You don't regret it?
No,
okay. I was confused. I was like, what?
No, I don't regret it at all.
It's because I feel like the senior Yale, it usually happens at the last...
end of junior year,
right?
Yeah.
And I feel like people are they want to do everything.
Yeah.
Like, they want to show off and be like, oh, like, this is how I'm going to be senior year.
Yeah.
So you see a lot.
I mean, we didn't have that when I was in high school.
You see a lot that you shouldn't see.
Now there's, like, so much stuff. That's what I'm saying. There's so much stuff now. I don't think I'd survive high school now. I'd want to, like, homeschool or something.
Yeah. Dude, I'd hide. I would go to school and back.
Yeah. Or maybe that did exist in high school. I was just never a part of it.
You're like, actually, I was just left out.
Everyone just never told me about it.
We're here to talk about your high school
Oh
experience.
my God, no. I don't want to talk about that. It was terrible. But so, and then in school, I know you guys have like the FCA club. Were you a part of that?
I tried so hard. Like, I literally tried, but I never woke up on time.
Oh, it's like an early thing.
It's like,
Yes.
7 in
It
the
was
morning,
like a-
6:30 in the morning.
Oh.
I was like, yo, like, I'm a sleeper.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a heavy sleeper. I would get to school like at 8:15 on the dot, or 8:10.
How come they didn't have it in the afternoons? It's just like a morning thing?
I mean, because there were sports after school.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
guess it's in the morning for every school.
yeah.
probably.
Because ours was in the morning too.
Like, I did it for like the first 2 weeks of school, and then I was like, oh no. Like I would literally set an alarm to wake up.
How was it though, the first 2 weeks that you went?
It was honestly super like fun. It was cool.
Did it like start your day off
It
good?
did.
I feel like
I
it
had
sets you
that
for a good
different
day.
mindset.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
And I'm like, oh, this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like to read your Bible every day in the morning.
yeah.
Yeah.
At one point, I was waking up at 6:30 every morning. I started waking up at 7 and reading my Bible for 5 minutes, like doing a 5-minute. And then like after a year of doing it consistently, I was waking up like at 5:30 and doing almost 2 hours of like Bible study. It's just crazy.
See,
how
that seems crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds so bad.
it's
but that
no,
seems
but it
crazy.
does sound crazy, right? But like when you get to that point, it's like you need it. Like it's,
But like, how do you process all of that?
Yeah.
Like,
At 5:30 in the
well,
morning.
it's not just straight reading your Bible. It's like journaling. It's like picking a scripture and journaling on that. And then it's like doing a devotional. So like you pick another thing and you do a devotional, and that's like another 30 minutes. And then it's like prayer. And then, so I kind of had my different little schedule of what I was going to do in the prayer closet. Cause I have a prayer closet. And
I remember that.
I have a prayer closet. And so I have like my prayer board. I have these like, plaques with like different prayers on them. And then of course I have my basket full of like devotionals and journals. And so it's just kind of taking time to myself, but it's like going to the gym for some people. Like they can spend hours there.
True.
Yeah.
I think that
Not
this
me.
becomes your, yeah, me neither. Obviously.
We were just talking about that. I need to start with it.
That's another thing I
Let's
used
go
to,
all together.
I used to hit the gym really hard and I don't anymore. Well, I also went through a lot, but I think my knee is keeping me from the gym right now. But yeah, there was a time where I was in the gym all the time and I got out of that habit. So right now, I think that's also part of me feeling lost. It's like I don't have my coping mechanisms.
With me, worshiping gets me into.
Yeah, I love worship.
That's like my key.
Like,
that gets me closer to God.
Yes, and so okay, my husband was Catholic, right? Well, he still is Catholic, but he's not practicing. He never was like a practicing active Catholic, right? And so when we got married through my church, and we started going to my church, which is like non-denominational. So the worship services are like way different than like a Catholic service. Yeah. And so he was always like, "Man, this is like a concert.
It is like a concert. I love
like
it.
A full-blown concert, right?" And I'm like, "I love it." And I'm like, "This is my favorite part about church is the worship, because like." I don't know. And he's like, I don't understand. He's like, why do people like get so into it? And it's like, well, when you love someone, like you just want to tell them that you love them, and like you just want to like sing to them, and like you're just worshiping that person or that like God. Yeah. And so he was like, oh, I never like saw it that way. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, that's our gift to God. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to come and worship you because, you know.
My gosh, totally off topic. But last Sunday we were at church and we had our worship. And we extended the worship from how like big God was moving. And the song,
you have to. Like you can't stop that. Yeah.
And the song was "I sought the Lord and He heard."
Oh my God, that's
answered.
my favorite song.
I was bawling my eyes out. Yeah. Like I couldn't.
I love that part.
Yes.
Because it just like it just hits so
like your heart literally just like warms up. And like you get like I had the chills. Like it was amazing. And I was like, you know what, like, because I haven't gone to church because of work. Like I'm working like almost every Sunday. And so I was like, you know what, like God planned it perfectly, and He knew like it might have not just like it wasn't for me, but like, you know,
maybe it was for you.
Maybe,
you know.
Yeah. Because that was a song that got me through like a bunch of things. And so I was like, okay. Like, okay, like I'm back.
I know. I love that.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I told you that I used to sing at my church, like when I was young. And I loved it so much. Like, I could just be there for hours and hours and hours just singing with the band.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that, but I'm not a good singer.
I'm not the best singer either. I can carry a tune.
But we were just singing the Star Spangled Banner before.
We were. Oh, God. Because we were testing out the microphones and Denise is like, I miss being in choir.
Dude, I hated choir. I literally hated it. It was so bad.
Imagine how different high school would be if they had like morning worship during breakfast.
That
like
would
the
be
choir
cool.
comes out and sings worship songs. That would be so cool.
At the cafeteria.
Yeah.
You know, they don't even eat in the cafeteria anymore? Like in the mornings?
Where do they eat?
In the classroom.
What?
Yeah.
Ew, that's boring.
It's lame.
But you know what? Also, okay, I was thinking about this because I was like, what am I going to ask Jenai, right? And like when I was in high school, we used to have a chaplain. Like do y'all still have that?
No.
Like, you know, you have like a vice president, treasurer. We had a chaplain. So like the chaplain, before like football games, we would pray like over the speaker.
Oh, no. There's like a guy from BT and he goes to like the church. Like he goes to the schools.
Okay.
I don't know. Peter Lamones? Sorry.
So he goes to like the games and
But
stuff.
they don't pray at the games, do
Yeah.
they? They pray at the games before the games? Oh my God, I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I know the coaches do. I don't know about the students. Like the athletes.
But
I think they pray in the locker room.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like they used to pray, like, you know how they do the national anthem and they do like they would pray over the speaker at the games. Yeah.
That's cool.
They would pray for like an injury-free game and like all these things. And I haven't seen prayer before a game in
Are you
years.
sure?
Yeah. I'm sure.
I could have sworn PSJ would do that.
I don't know, maybe, but
Yeah, because when we would play PSJ, they would always pray.
I'm saying like in the recent years.
Oh.
Like since I've been like taking pictures.
She said you're old.
Yeah, I'm old. Sorry,
Not
guys.
like when you were in high school.
I'm gonna do dramatic exit.
I know. Just walk out of the podcast. Yeah, no, but I remember we used to have that, and I haven't seen that in a long time. So I don't know if that's even a thing anymore.
I don't know.
Because I know they do like the National Day of Prayer, but that's like one day.
Well, that's my idea, that we should get the choir to go and sing worship songs.
Okay, well that brings us to another thing though, like
How they're not allowed to talk about it during school.
Yeah, how like God is no longer allowed in the classroom.
Yeah.
Like God's not allowed in school anymore. Like God forbid you even like make that recommendation because they're going to be like, well, not everybody believes in God, and you have to be like inclusive and like.
But
all
that's
this
so
stuff.
crazy though, because literally in everything in our in God we trust, on the dollar, under God's nation. So it's like it's
like everywhere.
It's involved.
Yeah.
That's why it was so strange for me, because I remember I had a history class and we were talking about like BC, before Christ, right? And we got closer to when the time of Christ was, and it would just shut off. So we'd have a question like, oh, well, what's this? Oh, we can't talk about
They're
that
like,
here.
we don't talk about him. We don't talk about him here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem. Is that
I feel like
God's not in schools anymore, and like it's crazy.
they would be like, oh, go to Sunday school for that. And it's like, I don't, like, what?
You're like, I don't go to Sunday school.
I don't wake up.
You're like, what is that? But like, what do you think you took away? Okay, is there something you gained from like being a girl of faith in high school? Like, did that oh my God.
I'm so sorry.
Did that carry on into adulthood for you? Like, is there something you got out of it?
Wait,
Just ignore that.
Sorry, guys, I'm gonna be in timeout.
No, and I'm not gonna edit this out, so you can learn your lesson.
Oh.
Kill me now. Sorry.
Yeah, like did you take something away from high school? Like something positive that you think tied into your faith?
What?
I know, right? That was confusing.
That was
like
confusing.
Like,
I was trying to think of that.
okay, let me simplify it.
Okay. Dumb it down.
What did you gain from being in high school and being a person of faith? Like, what did you learn? Did you learn anything about yourself, about the world?
Was there an eye opener?
The world is cruel.
Yeah, for sure.
And people are going to try to sabotage you and just try to like bring you down and everything, but you can't let it.
Mm-hmm.
As much as it like, as hard as it is, like we still can't let it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if I were to give any advice, it would be like, no matter like what the situation is, see God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, like, for me to say that, it's like, do it yourself. Like, take your own advice. But at the same time, like, it's hard. Like, how are you going to tell someone, like, oh, like, don't tell me, tell God. But, like, at the same time, you're like, wait, I want to tell you too. But it's like, no, like, at the same time, we're trying to, like, get advice from everyone else when the only advice we need is from God. And so, like,
they're seeking.
So take everything to God.
What am I trying to say? They're seeking
like validation.
Validation from the world instead of God. There you go. That's what I was trying to say.
No, that's good advice.
Yeah. And for me, it was like, it's hard too. Like, how are you gonna like I was trying to get validation from everyone else. I wanted validation from guys, from friends, from like adults, from people, like, you know. And I noticed that nothing was satisfying me.
I know. I was thinking that too because I was listening to something on TikTok, like, you know how videos just kind of, and I follow a lot of like faith-based TikTok accounts. And one of them was like, you're going to have this thirst that you're going to look for to quench in the world, and like nothing is going to satisfy you. Oh, okay. It was about, okay, remember like a few years ago, that beauty queen, what was her name? Chrisley. Her last name was Chrisley. She was like Miss America. She had like all these degrees. She was like a doctor. She was like a model. She lived in a penthouse. Like she had all this like stuff that you would think like, wow, like she has it all. And she ended up killing herself.
Oh, I saw that.
Remember?
Yeah.
And so he was talking about that. And he was like, she literally had everything. Everything and anything that we would kind of seek for happiness. And she had it. And she still wasn't happy. He's like, and that just kind of proves that the world is never, ever, ever going to satisfy that like thirst that you have. And so that was really interesting because it was like, oh my goodness, like he makes a good point. And I think that's where we kind of like get so frustrated. And another thing is that I think we have this like misconception of like, oh, nothing hard is ever going to happen to me because you know, God
loves me.
But if you read your Bible, okay, so I started from the very beginning and I started reading the Old Testament. And man, the followers, I mean, the people that God's people went through a lot. Like they suffered. The men of God suffered. The women of God suffered. Like, so I always tell people that when people are like, well, why is God letting this happen? And it's like, did you see what Jesus went through? He went through a lot. Like, so if Jesus went through that, like, what makes you think that you're not going to go through stuff? Like, how are you better than Jesus? Like, but I don't know. I think it's just this like, this lie that we get told that like, oh, nothing bad should happen. Or
and it's like social media too. Everyone puts up a front. So it's like, you get that in your head and you're like, why, God? Why do they get this job? And little do they know, they're like barely paying their rent.
Exactly how y'all thought, like, oh, like she's like this girl, like how y'all thought about me, like she has nothing wrong. And I'm like, y'all, like, let's bring it down real quick.
Let's talk about it.
Because I'm not perfect.
Well, you know, and I think that is the whole point of this podcast. Because when we started the podcast, we're like, you know what? There's a lot of things that kids go through that it doesn't get talked about, or like it's just, or maybe it doesn't get talked about because we don't ask about it. Everyone just kind of like minds their own business and like goes along with their life. But it's like everyone's going through something, you know, like even as an adult, I'm still going through stuff that I think I wouldn't have been going through by now, you know, but it's just hard. Life is just life. And so I think it's good that you came on the podcast and like talked about it, because there's probably other people that also are the same, that are like, man, if you only really knew what I'm going through. But it's okay to talk about it.
It's scary. It might be scary, but at the end of the day, like, speaking about it helps.
It does.
And like, I thought that like hiding it away from everyone, hiding like literally everything and any little thing away was going to make me feel better and was going to make me like seem like this amazing person. But then I realized like it was just starting to mess with me and starting to mess with friendships. And I was like, it has to come out now.
I used to tell my patients when I was in counseling that keeping it inside was like not it's like a wound, like an infected wound, and you just keep putting a Band-Aid on it. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. Eventually, you're going to get really, really sick from that. And it's kind of like the same thing by not talking about it. You're just like letting it build up, and it ends up being bad. Most of the time, it ends up being bad. So yeah, thank you for talking about it.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing. I know sometimes it's difficult to share, but I'm sure our listeners appreciate it because it's makes you relate with someone and makes you feel like, okay, you're not the only person that's going through that.
For sure.
Any closing comments, Anissa?
No.
Our advice segment went away.
Oh.
I know, I forgot to ask people for advice, what they wanted advice on. But you gave good advice earlier. No, her. Earlier, she gave good advice.
I was like, thanks.
No. Yeah, Jenai gave good advice.
My advice is don't hold judgment on people because they may not have reached God yet, or they may not have opened their eyes to God yet. So you cannot judge people as you wouldn't want them to judge you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
well, we live in a super judgy society.
I know. That's I feel like it's hypocritical for me to say that too, but I feel like as high schoolers and people that are listening, they're younger, I wouldn't want someone to tell me that now, because what I know now, like I've seen a lot of stuff in the real world, you know, being out of high school and in college and real life stuff. I feel like if someone would have told me that whenever I was younger, I'd be like, you know what, you're right. Because I feel like,
but sometimes you have to live through it, to learn it. Yeah, because
that's true. But that's my little advice.
Okay.
If they would like to
receive it, not like you.
I'm stubborn, guys.
Oh my, she's so stubborn. Like, I don't even tell her anymore. I'm like, let her just learn.
Yeah.
Put your hand on the stove, Anissa. Put your hand on the stove and see what happens.
Imagine how God feels with me.
No, I know.
Like,
that's really how God feels with all of us. Like, geez. He's like, you're never going to learn. No, but let me see. I think my advice in this topic is, I guess my advice is close to your advice. Like, put God in the center. If you put you would be amazed at how your life changes when you put God in the center.
Yeah.
Like when you put God first, your life it changes. And not that your circumstances change or your environment changes, your perception about your circumstances change. Yeah. And so like you receive problems differently, where you just feel like ready to like battle them a little bit more, or like I don't know, it's just so different. Yeah, but then when you kind of shy away from that, the world can consume you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I've been guilty of letting that happen so much recently too. And like, I've been in and out of church. Like, I go to church 2 or 3 weeks, and then I don't go 2 or 3 weeks. And I feel like it just interrupts, like, you know, my mindset and my faith and all that stuff. So that's like my goal, is to go every single week, because it does put you like in a good mindset.
But once, like, you're going to go to church 1 week and then it's going to hit you so hard to where you're not going to want to step away. That happened to me. Whenever I would go to church for myself, because I just like, I needed to go.
I love church.
Church is my favorite. Especially worshiping. Like, oh, guys, I love worshiping so much.
I know.
Or like in the car.
Let's have our own worship.
I know. We can just we have microphones. We can do it.
We'll go live. Whenever we went to that concert. Oh my gosh, we should go live.
We're gonna have a karaoke to Christian music.
We need to have a karaoke worship edition.
We went to that country wow Christian concert.
What the Mercy Me one?
Yes, that one.
Yes,
I would recommend everyone go to a Christian concert.
Well, they have the one. Which one is it?
Do they do still that Praise on the Hill? Do they still do that? Do y'all know?
Is that what I'm talking about? I know there's one where
it was like far away in Kedra.
Praise on the Hill. I don't remember.
And like it was a bunch of bands, and you would just lay down, not lay down, but like sit up on the lawn.
Oh, that's cool. I wish they had that. I haven't.
Speaking of, I don't know if they still do Fields of Faith.
Yes.
Yeah, they just had it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't get to go.
That one's so much fun.
Some kids reached out for me to go take pictures, but I was booked. And I was like, oh, that would have been so nice. I could have been like worshiping and taking pictures.
That's what I like though, because it's a bunch of people from all over. Like,
I think they hold it per district, right? Like all the schools go.
I think Edinburgh's having one.
They already have theirs.
For real?
Mm-hmm. They had it like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
The Mission? Someone's having theirs.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I know Edinburgh had theirs and then McAllen had theirs.
Last week, I think.
Yeah, so those are already done.
I still remember mine when I went.
Mine was good.
Yeah, when I was in high school. It's so, I don't know. It's weird because I feel like you feel it more. Like I
Because
still
you're just like with your age.
yes, I still remember it like if it was yesterday.
Yeah.
How nice.
I was touched.
Yeah, no, that's nice. That's not bad. But anyways, well, thank you for listening, Jenai. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
So if you're listening to us on Spotify, please like our episode. Please rate it. Please follow us. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and like our episode. And we will be back next week with another interesting topic. Thank you guys. We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.